I started getting into the real life experiences when I figured out that it was real. But I've gained more knowledge by far through actual physical life experiences. But what I will say though is that books also help me grasp the knowledge that I possess based on actual physical life experiences. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me read this in its entirety one time because I ain't read it in its entirety yet because I'm doing too, excuse me, got the hiccups now. Too much too in depth, detailed breakdown. Title 12, USC, that's United States Code, subsection 411. Federal Reserve notes are to be issued at the discretion of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System for purposes of making advances to Federal Reserve banks through the Federal Reserve agents as hereinafter set forth and for no other purpose are they authorize. The said notes, i.e. Federal Reserve notes, shall be, which means shall means must, be the obligation of the United States and shall be receivable by all national and member banks and Federal Reserve banks and for all taxes, customs, and other public dues. So what y'all don't understand about Title 12 USC subsection 411 is the fact that any debt that you owe to the light company, gas company, water company, so-called lender, so on and so forth, guess what? The Federal Reserve banks are supposed to pay that debt because it's considered a public debt. You think it's a private debt because you've been convinced that it's a private debt, right? Maybe some of y'all didn't even catch this with the fuck up. Man, see, this shit gets real deep. It's very, very, very deep. People say, how deep does the rabbit hole go? The rabbit hole will go deep as far as the rabbit can dig. The rabbit hole goes deep as one will dig looking for the truth. Hopefully that makes sense to some of y'all. I gotta start all over again because I want to read it without breaking it down. But certain parts I didn't get to break down yet because I didn't get to them. Federal Reserve Federal Reserve notes to be issued at the discretion of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System for purposes of making advances to Federal Reserve banks through the Federal Reserve agents as hereinafter set forth and for no other purpose are authorized. The said notes, i.e. Federal Reserve notes, shall, which means must be the obligation of the United States of America. So what that means, here I go again. So with that, it's hard for me not to do this. So what that means is that anyone claiming that you owe them a debt in the form of a Federal Reserve note, then they need to go to the Federal Reserve Bank to settle that debt. But they don't want y'all to know this, right? So we start all over again and try again. Federal Reserve notes to be issued at the discretion of Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System for purposes of making advances to the Federal Reserve banks through the Federal Reserve agents as hereinafter set forth and for no other purpose or authorized. The said notes, i.e. Federal Reserve notes, shall be the obligation, shall means must, shall be the obligation of the United States and shall, which must be receivable by all national and member banks and the Federal Reserve. Nobody else, right? And for all taxes, customs, and other public dues. They shall, which means must, be redeemable in lawful money, right? On demand at the Treasury Department of the United States of America in the city of Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, or at any Federal Reserve Bank. Citations at the bottom. That means I possess a lot of, or quite a few, gold certificates, and silver certificates. Here's what y'all don't understand. If I take the gold certificates and silver certificates, and I turn around and I take them to the Federal Reserve Bank and try to get gold or silver, depending on the certificate that I possess, they don't have the gold or silver to give to me in return for the certificate, in which says on it that it is redeemable in that amount of silver or gold. I'm good. Anybody want to call in and deal